Welcome everyone to the Everything Show. I am your host, Matrix Lord 212, and I am with Tom Centula, a friend of mine who has written his first ever book called Sonnetsphere. What's up, bro? How are you?
It's good to see you, Joe. Thanks for having me here, Matrix Lord. It's my first time here, first time being an author, so there's a lot going on. It's a big step for me, so I'm glad to be on the show.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. You have it in the back of your head you wanted to do a book for a while. You've told me this, right? You've told me you wanted to do a book. A lot of people, they'll want to do things, but they don't deliver. They don't achieve their goal, right? But you did. You just flat out did what you said you were going to do. And how long did it take? How long did you want to write this book, first of all?
I've wanted to write this book pretty much around 2020, right before COVID-19 shut down everything. It was in January where I had just scored an internship gig with the Morgan Project, which is a nonprofit organization in Seattle, Washington, and I was writing articles for them. And I
Okay.
said to myself, after I write for them, which should be about 3 months, it was like 10 weeks, just like the week into the pandemic started, I stopped and they relieved me of my duties and they have my articles now. I thought, I'm going to write some poetry. I've never done it before. I would
Okay.
just sit in front of the TV with my notebook and I would just write how I felt a lot. I would write short stories of how I felt. I would write about what I'm going through, what type of personal strife I have. Like everybody has. I went through all those lonely times while everybody was probably out and about. I was on my butt sitting down writing something that I had on my mind, whether it was happiness, sadness,
Right.
feeling giddy about the smallest things. I figured I should write a poetry book. So, back in 2011, when I took a creative writing class with Patricia Smith de Silva, who is teaching it back in the spring semester, we had a book called Creative Writing by David Starkey. This was a book that pretty much told you about poetry. It gave you the rules of how to write a poem, whether it's a sonnet, a rondo, a villanelle, a sestina, and I'm still learning more about this, so about
Right.
poetry. It's something that I never really did a lot of. I would just write stories and write about how I felt. I was more of just trying to get to have the diction
Right.
down of how I felt and what
Right.
I was going through. Just stuff about like whether I was bored
Right.
or whether I was tired or depressed or happy, any type of feeling I would have, I would just jot it down because that's just the one thing you have to resort to or can resort to. Some people act out their emotions, and whether it's in public or in
Right.
private. Some people write it down. Some people do
Right.
all of
I have
the
notebooks
above.
everywhere. Yeah. All over my house. I have a notebook in every room. So I just write stuff like, on my iPhone. I'd be traveling and I'd just be writing stuff all the time. So yes, exactly. So now let me ask you a question. So this book is a poetry book. Um Now, how big is the book?
It's a total of 168 pages and 152 sonnets. It
Okay.
says so on the back cover.
So now, why don't you
And
explain to the public what a sonnet is?
the sonnet is pretty much it's a 14 line four stanza poem. Every other line rhymes in each stanza.
Okay.
Like for an example, I have a poem that I wrote. This is the opening poem of the book. It's called "Giving More Than We Take." It's the first three stanzas are four lines per stanza, and then there's the fourth stanza, which is it rhymes consecutively, while the first three is every other line rhyming. So I'll read that to you.
Okay.
Giving more than we take. We struggle with grit to exist on earth and burrow inside to find our presence, searching to find our true calling since birth while scraping behind with other peasants. Wandering in this maze as we're misled, as we look for comfort, help, and safety. We all suffer in vain to live instead, with a lot of responsibility. While life distributes us adversity, we brave through the hurt while the others yield. As we soldier through life's calamity, we build our resolve on this battlefield. It gives us all the pride we need to live, as we have more than great service to give, giving more than we take.
Excellent. All right. So now you would say that your book has a wide range of emotions that you put into it, right? Now, do you have it where first page could be one type of poem? Now, do they just go randomly, or do you have, like, say, all the sad stuff? Did you group the emotions together, or you just put it in a natural? Like, how did you do the poems? You felt like this was going to be definitely the first poem. This is definitely going to be the last poem. Like, what made you decide how this book is going to be?
This poem or this book I wrote, I wanted to mix it up. I didn't want to make it like in certain sections, like this section would be sad poems, or this section would be happy poems, or this section would be about like funny poems. I pretty much mixed it up. I just put it in a blender and I just pressed the Googlify button and I just put it all in different pages of all sort of emotions. I mean, there's a couple double sonnets there of one story. There's stuff about some of the things I may have dealt with when I was younger. Stuff that
Okay.
just some of the strife that most kids deal with. A lot of angst. There's your hormones are raging, and there's a lot of rage that's been pent up, and and you want to let that out. And for some adults, there may still be some rage that's pent up from the past, and
I'm
that needs to be
sure.
let out. It's hard to manage and micromanage how you feel and how you want to feel and how you should feel in
So
certain
this is
settings.
all basically your emotions, like I like put into poetry. It's not like it's story. It's just like your feelings, right?
It's pretty much that, as far as just letting someone know how you feel. I think that's been the underlying theme of what people are going through today,
Right.
where back in the 80s or 90s, most people would just keep a stiff upper lip, but
Right.
at this point in time, we are being encouraged more by society. I think society is understanding now that it's not always good to leave everything bottled up. Sometimes
Correct.
you may have to in certain scenarios and then tell it to someone close by that will understand the most. And that's something that
Correct.
most people need is a confidant.
Right.
I have some
And we have
confidants in my
we
life.
have outlets like social media, but sometimes you just want to be more personal and you write your own book. You write your own. It's you. It's basically you. Like when they
You're pretty
review
much
the
in a
book.
position where you're like you got to pick and choose who deserves to
Right. And now
watch your
you
story.
decided to put it in a book so everybody could see it, basically.
This is something that I've been building since the pandemic, and during the
Yeah.
time where I was taking my time to write this story, these sonnets, it's like I got to take it one at a time, and I was trying to figure out how many should I write? Should I write 100? Should I write 200?
Well, that leads me to my next question, actually, because we all know, like when I did my book, there's stuff that you edit out, and then there's stuff that you don't use. Um, do you find that the stuff that you taken out of the book, will you revisit that and reuse that possibly in the future, or do you think that that was meant to be cut out and it's not salvageable?
I think some of the stuff that I wrote were more meant to be looked over and edited and then put back into the fray, and some that were written were meant to be discarded to the side.
Did you discard a lot of stuff or no?
There was some stuff, yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, but maybe like a good amount of stuff that was out there and
But
had
it
to
was meant
be.
to be not part of the book, like you knew it wouldn't fit, right? Like
Some were not. Some were definitely more like, okay, I meant to put this in there. But I got to edit it better, and it's written poorly, so I got to really look
okay,
at it and see what's wrong with it, and that's what I took the time to do. See, 2020 was a time where I was just really exploring and trying to find my voice in the sonnet format. It's not always the easiest format, but at one point in time, as long as you practice it like anything else, it will be much better. I don't know
Right.
if it's perfect because I don't think anything is, but as long as it's
Nothing's
better than
perfect.
what
I
it
mean,
was,
everybody
as long
has
as
their
you
own
write it
style.
and put it out there as best as
Yeah.
you know how in the way that you have it in your mind, which could be tough too, you will
Right.
be able to send your message in the way that you mean it to. And some people may feel the same way. Some people will be able to identify. Some people not always identify, but they will but
Right.
they'll have that they'll have that feeling, well, this sounds like it's something that I've been through and I'm
Right.
going through now and everybody's going through. So 2020 was a time where I had to really take the time and shut everything out and just do what I normally do. And a lot happened that year. A lot
Right.
happened.
Now, this
That
this book, is it about, like, it's your emotions, but is this partly about the pandemic? Like, because were your emotions affected? Like, did this drive you to write certain things that you ordinarily wouldn't write? Like, I mean, is this mostly about what you're going through in the pandemic, like your emotions, or is it before that, like growing up?
growing up, mostly
Okay.
growing up. I mean, there's some things that definitely happened. There was a big there was the death of George Floyd. There was the pandemic on top of that. It's like we have these two things going on at once. It's like how are we going to get through this other than just go through it a day at a time, which luckily we've been able to do. It's like you
Right.
think, well, we got. I always say we got all this time to go through this, and more likely than not, time flies when you're either having fun or having the worst times in your life. And sometimes it seems like the worst times that happen to everybody are longer than the time that flies when you're
Right.
having
Yeah.
fun.
That's true.
So it's something that you would have to, if it feels longer than it is, sometimes it's something where you just have to be more patient and just find a way of your own to get through that, which I think a lot of Americans, some are still going through.
Right.
And there's
It's a lot that we went through the past couple of years with this stuff. But all right, so let me ask you a question now. What was your emotions when you first held your book in your hands?
I was like, here it is, all like 2 years of work, like just like a lot of stuff. As far as there was still more of me that I had to go through in order to put the finishing touches on Sonnetsphere, as I had some like 2021 after 2020 was was a very was emotionally taxing for me. It's just
Right.
as far as some of the issues that people may have, like personally, whether mental health is still being, scrutinized today, it's far less than what it was maybe, like I said, 80s, 90s,
Right.
or further, where back then there, or even before then, where they may have not been a thing, such as that, where people may have unearthed it and they didn't. It's been unearthed now. It's just dealing with some of the problems that we have to have by not just writing or talking to someone professionally if we can afford to, because sometimes it's not easy to get that special
True.
help with that
Yeah.
professional help, but just confiding in family and being able to lean on them and have them do the same to you, because that's just the most important thing. Most people don't look at it that way. Some people have families that don't always get along or
True.
don't get a chance to see each other as
Yeah.
often as they should, especially during this time. And it's always been something that has been that way. Like back in the 2000s, I mean, I was always out. I was always doing something with myself and for myself, whether it was going to the city a lot, just exploring the city and just going there a lot and spending time with
Yeah.
other people who were from other parts of the country that were pursuing acting on Broadway,
Right.
that wanted to go off Broadway and on Broadway and wanted to be able to take the time to be able to discover not just the big city but discover their dreams coming true. And so some people have been able to get steady work coming from another part of the country, another part of the world, and I was in this position where it's like I couldn't. There are times where I got myself in the door but were unable to. I
Right.
was able to score maybe some short films from other colleges like
Mm.
NYU, Columbia University, New York Film Academy, Hunter College, Brooklyn College.
Now, was the first experience doing a book, was it a joyous experience or was it a horrible experience? Because I know I've done 13 books, and there have been times when I've had a horrible experience doing a book, and there's been times where I had the greatest experience. What was your first experience like working with a team, people designing your cover, people receiving your work, and going over your book with them? Like, how was that experience? How was your team?
That was a cool experience. Sheila Legaspi, Ricky Caro, you know, Megan, I don't remember her last name, Avarello, I believe.
Mm.
They
So
were
you had a
very
good team.
helpful. They are a
Okay.
very good team, and they were, they were showing me what they had. The manuscript was set, and they had everything in, set up. And I found a picture for my book, which they turned, the front cover. I thought this looked, when they showed me the front cover, it was like the coolest thing I ever saw. It was like,
Right.
this is like something out of like a larger publishing house. It was one of the
Right.
coolest things I ever saw. That is a cool cover, I
Yeah.
gotta say. And the
Yeah.
stuff
Zebras that's my publisher. That I love them, and I always do books with
they
them. So
did,
I told you about them. They're really awesome. So
they did an excellent job helping me out. And there was a time where I didn't finish the book in 2021 because I just had trouble with sleep,
oh yeah,
insomnia.
stuff like that happens. Yeah.
I could not sleep. It's like I needed to sleep more than I needed to write. It's like even
Yes.
if I wrote,
Absolutely.
you just can't write.
That happens to
Sometimes
me now. I mean, with different
it's
things,
like
and it's like
you
you have
should write
things to
how you
do,
feel.
right? But
You
you're too
should write how you
exhausted.
feel.
Yeah. It happens. It still happens to me.
It's
Absolutely.
hard. It's one of those things where it's so hard to, you know, it's like, sometimes I was in a bed tossing and turning with my sheets falling off my mattress, and there were times where I was curled up in a ball. You know, it's like 6 o'clock p.m. and I'm still wide awake, and I got to get up in like in a couple of
You
hours, and I got to
yeah.
like do my daily doings. And it's like
Yeah.
it's like I might as well get up now, get a quick snack, and try again. But it's
Right.
like even
So
with
what do you hope?
melatonin,
What are you looking forward to now with this book? What do you envision happening with this book? Where do you
I'd like
want the book to be?
I'd like to continue promoting it. I'd like to see more people buy it and get a variety of opinions from other from other
Authors or whatever,
consumers,
right? And consumers, yeah.
or poets or anyone else that is interested in something that I am doing, and take the time to, I guess, look at it and see not just what I went through, but just some of the things that also how it looks and
Right.
how it may make them feel like something maybe they can. Well, the one thing that the most important thing is what they get out of it. What they
Right.
get out of it. How did it feel? You already know.
Yeah.
What did you get out of it is the more important question. That's a
Now,
bigger.
could I
That's
show your book on air? Could
please.
I'm going to go on the Amazon, and I'm going to screen share this so the audience can see. Um,
Perfectly great. Thank you.
so we're going to go and just tell me if you see it. Okay. Do you see it? Can you see it, Tom? Well, this might be using up a lot of memory. I don't know if you're losing connection. This is Sonnetsphere. Paperback, $16.99. You got Kindle. You got hardcover, $28.99. It looks beautiful cover, by the way. Absolute. Can I zoom in on us, maybe? I like the cover a lot. So, yeah, it looks great, bro. Congratulations. You can see it. You see it? Let me stop screen sharing because I think maybe that's affecting your internet connection. I don't know. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to purchase it, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm also going to try to shoot something for you so we can promote this book also. I'm very excited for you, my friend, because, again, it's a wonderful, joyous experience when you create a book. And I would love for everyone to experience that like you have. And, stuff like this makes me want to do another book. I had released mine during the pandemic. It started right after, and the problem with that is I released Twists of Hate on March 10th, and then everything went in lockdown shortly thereafter, and no one could buy the book at that time live. They had to buy it if they saw it online. So definitely had a bad luck when it comes to when I released my book. But that didn't stop me. Just it kind of halted things for the next book. But I'm so grateful that uh, there's always a chance to do another book. There's always, my health is there. I could do another book at any time. And you back? Okay. I don't know if I lost your connection. We lost connection with you, so I was just talking a little bit until you came back. So I don't know if you could hear me. Could you hear me or not? Well, at least we got 21 minutes out of this. We had some trouble with the internet connection. So we tried to see if this would work. And it did. We got a lot out of this podcast. And I'm very happy for you, Tom, your first book. And I'm going to purchase it and going to review it and going to get you back on here and talk about it. And we're also I'm going to try to shoot something for you next week as well. All right. Is your internet back? No? Yes? No. All right. On that note, we have some technical difficulties, so we're going to end the podcast right here. Thank you guys for watching. Take care. Bye for now.